Okay, now we're on to Lesson 3. Today we're going to talk a little bit about events and why they might be useful. I remember thinking a while ago there wasn't much use for delegates for me. I understood kind of what they were for, but I had a hard time figuring out when I would use them. Delegates are useful for lots of different things, but the one piece of code that I would use them in definitely would be an event, and that's obviously what is required to actually fire an event. A delegate is required. So, coming back to our class here, we still have our class of animal and also this subclass of cat. So what we're going to do is we're going to create an event that something that this cat does that can be responded to by other classes. Basically, the reason that you would use an event would be to kind of decouple the caller from the callee. So an event, let's just write that out here, decouples caller from callee. Normally, when you write code, basically something that A does will go to B, and so forth. But an event, basically, so this is kind of normal. You want something done, so you call a method. So this is A is you want something done, and then boom, you call a method. That's kind of normal. So an event is a little bit different because A does an action, then B, D, F. You can have a bunch of different people that are interested in that action. And they can watch for it and then respond with differing code. And so basically when you write this event, you don't have to know beforehand what's going to happen. The way that you kind of make that contract known and binding is through a delegate. So a delegate says, okay, you have to have these parameters. And a delegate, all it really is a method signature, just like we showed up here. Basically, a delegate says you can run methods. So when this event goes, I'm going to allow you to pass in methods that are of a certain signature, and that's what a delegate basically takes care of. So our delegate is up here. In fact, it's right in the name. So let's just go ahead and put it out here. It says delegate, so you won't think it's anything else. It's definitely delegate. And a delegate, like I said, it's just a method signature. So let's create one real quick here. And cats do a lot of screeching, so we're just going to name this screech handler. And generally the convention is some sort of handler on the name of it, basically, so you can kind of think of it as this piece is going to handle the event. So it's handling the event. That's kind of the convention, although you don't have to name it handler. It's just kind of a convention. A lot of times you'll see code that says event handler, so that's where that handler comes from. And then we write here, let's just write the name of, we'll pass in the name of whatever. So basically the cat is going to make a screech sound, and then other animals are going to be listening for that screech, and once they hear that screech, they're going to respond to it. So that's the delegate, and then the event we'll just put right after it. And the way you do an event, you mark it as an event, just like you did the delegate. And then all the event needs is the event needs to know what sort of signature what sort of methods can be called. And it needs to know the signature of what to call. So basically you say, I would like to run something that follows this signature. Void return type and a string parameter as the input. And that's all you need for the event. I'm creating these as public so that they can be seen outside of this class. We have to actually give the event a name because we're going to call the event down here. And let's just call it Screech. Okay, so the event is Screech. Notice that there's no variable name up here for the delegate. The delegate is just a signature. You can't even call the delegate directly. It's just a signature. But the event we are going to call directly by using Screech, this name right here. So we'll call the event. The event realizes that anything that is within the signature can occur, and then it's going to fire those. It will fire whatever events are listening to it. Another way you can think of events are as follows. You can think of an event as a broadcaster and subscriber model, meaning that you'll have one broadcaster and one or more subscribers. So that's basically how you can think of an event, which is really nice because it lets you just write some code and then you can put events in there, and anybody later on that wants to use them can use them for whatever. The place that happens to use them a lot would be obviously GUI applications, because when you click a button, whoever created that button, that wasn't you, that was someone at Microsoft. They created that button, and they didn't know beforehand what you wanted to do with that button. They didn't know what piece of code. So instead of hardwiring what would happen, when you click that button, they basically kind of left it open-ended. They said, okay, whoever clicks this button, we're going to notify them that the button has been clicked through an event. And then it's up to the user to fill in the blanks of what they want to do. And what they want to do can be changed, it can be a various number of things, but they don't care. They're just going to raise the event, and the subscriber will pick that event up and do whatever they want with it. Okay, so we've got our class that does this right here. Now let's create some class let's create a method that raises the event. Let's just call it raise event, just so that it'll be easy to understand that this is the piece of code that's going to raise the event. And you could put it in all sorts of code. So remember, we raise the event by calling the event. So it's Screech. Oops. And remember that this, as the code completion actually shows us what kind of signature Screech is. Screech returns void, and it accepts a string name. So that means we're going to have to pass in the name of what, just some sort of string. So let's just give it the name of the current object, which will be a cat. So the current object is going to be this, and that's going to be some sort of cat type, so that whoever's listening to it will be able to respond. You can easily pass anything in here. You just have to make sure that your signature for your delegate is matches with what you're doing here. So now let's create another class that does this. So this is broadcaster, and let's create a subscriber. Let's name it a dog. And what we're going to do is we're going to not really add too many things to this dog, but we're going to say that the dog is going to be watching a cat. dogs always like to watch cats, right? So we're going to say that it's going to watch a cat, so we're going to pass in a reference to whatever cat it's going to watch so that it can keep an eye on that cat. And let's just create a private variable up there. Whoops, let's just name it something else here. So now we have a reference to, we're going to have a reference to whatever cat we're going to be watching. And let's also go ahead and add our event handler right here. We're going to subscribe to the event, actually. Subscribe to event. Boom. So when we subscribe to our event, all we have to do is basically tell it what we're going to do. So this cat that we're watching, which is, C, when it does a screech, and you notice, let me just go back here for a second. Move this down so you can see. So these wrenches are properties, the boxes are methods, and these little lightning bolts are events. You can just kind of think of, I don't know, as in some sort of event. That's what these lightning bolts are. So we're going to be watching out for when the cat screeches. Because the cat could have multiple events, but the one we're concerned about for this dog is the screech. And the way you subscribe to them is you do a plus equals. To unsubscribe from an event, like if later on in the code you didn't want to listen to the cat screech, you don't want to pay attention to it, you would just unsubscribe from it. So we're going to subscribe to this event, and then we're going to tell it what we want to do when that happens, what method we want to run when the event gets raised, when the event happens. So as you notice right here, it's got this little briefcase. Those are delegates. If we hover over, you can see delegate, and what type of delegate it is. It's a screech handler. Whenever we do our code completion, it tells us what we need to pass in here. So we're going to need to, it actually doesn't really tell us very well, but what we need to do is we need to pass in a method to call. So it's interested, so we don't have the method created yet, but it's interested in you putting in the name of a method right here, which is kind of a little bit different than obviously passing in strings or integers or whatever. But that's what this delegate wants. It wants to have a method. Let me move this back up here. That it wants to have a method that looks like this, because when this screech occurs, it's going to call that method because it's subscribing to it. So let's just create one called bark. And remember, it has to, this signature that we're going to call has to have the same, the method that we're going to call has to have the same signature as this delegate. So it's going to accept some sort of string, and it's going to do something with it. It's just, we're doing a lot of these console write lines. So let's just go ahead and keep doing bark at. So we're going to bark at the name of that cat that raises a handler. So now all we need to do is fill in the blanks. This thing needs a method. And give me 1 second here. Okay, I just had to check on my syntax. I was forgetting the keyword new. So we actually have to create a new, basically an instance of this delegate that we have up here. So we have to actually create some sort of new object, which is based on, it's basically called a delegate instance. I kind of forgot about that. But that's what we're creating here, a delegate instance. We pass in it the name of the method that we're going to run when this event occurs that we're subscribing to. Okay. So let's go ahead and put this into practice. Let's come over to this thing right here. And we have, so we create a cat and a dog. This is where remember the class is a blueprint, so we can't do anything. It's not like we're going to be doing stuff with that. Those are just the blueprints for these things. So we actually have to create a cat object, dog object, and remember the dog is listening for a certain cat screech. So we have to give it the instance of a cat. So we're passing it that reference to the object that's out there on disk. So basically we're passing it that cat object here by reference, but anyway. And what we're going to do at that point, we're going to be all wired up, because inside the dog, when the dog gets created, remember we're going to be listening. That event's already created, so we don't have to worry about it. So all we have to do is, in fact, let me make sure I put this. Let me just go ahead and put a console write line in here just so that we can see something. So the cat's going to do meow, and then it's also going to raise an event, and whoever subscribed to it can do whatever. It just so happens that the dog is subscribed to the screech event right here. See, it's both marked right there, there and there. Then it will bark once it hears the cat screech. So the cat will screech. Oops. Sorry. It's going to raise the event. I think that's what we called it. Yeah. Remember, the cat doesn't do that screech as a method. It's calling this method, and the method basically says, okay, raise this sort of event. Let's see what happens. Let's go ahead and fire it up. Okay, so let me drag this window down so you can see the output. So as you can see, the cat said meow, and then immediately the dog barked at, and we passed in the name. The cat was named John. We had that, I think we had that in the constructor of the cat, that's what his name was. So that, in a nutshell, is our events. So, like I say, it's a concept that I've just recently found use for. I haven't used it. Previously, I basically had hardwired a lot of things, and so I think it's something that I find exciting and that I'll be using a lot more often. All right.